24 days until we have college football back on our television screens. How beautiful is that? Now, if you've been tuned into this show, The Hard Count, college football season never really stopped. But nonetheless, if you're just now finding this show, welcome, baby. This is The Hard Count, college football, nothing but college football every single day. And today is Wednesday, July 31st, 2024, the last one on the face of the planet. It is prediction season now. Fall camp getting rolling. Got some propaganda headed our way, and I'll tell you what, man. There's a lot of folks out there that say propaganda, get that away from us. We don't want to drink the Kool-Aid. I'm telling you right now, baby, better drink that Kool-Aid because as of today, everybody's team is undefeated. Everybody has a surplus of hope, and everybody has a chance to do what they want to do in 2024. That's what fall camp is for. So like I said, prediction season is upon us. If you tuned in yesterday, we gave you a number of record predictions. Today, that continues. We got Nebraska on the docket. We got Miami on the docket. We got Tennessee on the docket. Going to go game by game for you there and give you our prediction for every single game and the eventual record for those specific teams. The predictions do not stop there, though. We also have our Heisman finalists and Heisman picks for you. I'll tell you what, man, we've known this is coming for a long time. We've had this slated for this show for the better part of the last week and a half, give or take 2 weeks. I just decided on my finalists and my ultimate Heisman winner like 25 minutes ago. So all that's to say, man, I think this is going to be the most wide open Heisman race we've had in the history of the sport, quite frankly, by nature of the college football playoff expanding. So we'll give you our finalists, we'll give you our picks, and then also we got, like I just mentioned, fall propaganda upon us, and we love that. We'll talk about the best propaganda we're going to see here over the course of the next couple of weeks, and we'll inhale that together. Before we get to that, though, I want us to unpack some of these absolute truths in college football. But if you are tuned in live, thank you. Subscribe to the channel. If you're listening via podcast, thank you. Subscribe to the podcast feed. It helps us help you. And listen, man, we are, I said it, 24 days away. Need everybody locked in. You see this on my shirt. It says program. If you're listening on podcast, it says program. It says that every single show. There's a reason for that now. There's a tongue-in-cheek reason behind it, which is me and some buddies, when we were doing this show independently and we also worked an 8-to-5 job, we would talk about how coaches say the word program kind of funny. But the coaches that said program, they always won a lot of football games. Nick Saban, Dabo Swinney, Kirby Smart. Notice those guys won a lot of football games and they say program that way. So that kind of became a joke with me and my buddies saying, man, I'm trying to build a program out here. But then also it's kind of transformed since we've done this show here at On 3. It's kind of transformed into like our own little college football community. Like when I say program, I'm talking about, yes, us on this side of the camera, but also all of y'all that are listening, all of y'all that are watching. Like y'all are a part of this program. Y'all make this program what it is. So to be officially a part of this program, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast feed, and let's have an absolute heck of a college football season, baby, starting right now. So, as I mentioned, what are the absolute truths in college football? So we're zooming out a little bit here, taking a 30,000-foot view of the sport and telling you things that I believe to be absolutely true as it stands today in the most wonderful sport on the face of the planet. And the first absolute truth I have for us here is that your care factor is now a non-negotiable to winning at the highest level. If you're saying, JD, what the heck is a care factor? Care factor is a term that we've had on this show for the better part of the last few months, really since the NIL and portal era has been rolling and kind of became more of a term for us on this show this past season as we've seen some teams really get cooking in the portal and with NIL. Care factor is essentially your fan base and your powers that be caring about football. Now, you care about football in here, and we also know if you care about football in modern college football right now, you got to care about it in your wallet as well. And so if you want to acquire top talent, long gone are the days where you just, ask for some money to put a waterfall in the weight room and have more neon lights in your team room and have more comfortable lockers. Like that all helps things for sure. But if you want to win at the highest level, now you can say, hey, give us some money. And that was going to go to waterfalls a couple years ago. Now it's going to buying a 5-star player. Let's call a spade here. Everybody understands that. There's very much so a pay-for-play model going on in college football. And so the schools and the fan base that are like, hey, we're all in, baby. Tell us how much you need. We'll give you as many Benjamins as you want so we can go get the best team to go win the most games. If you're sitting out or maybe sitting on the sideline when it comes to NIL, it's basically like sitting out and recruiting these days. Like it's a non-negotiable. The better your care factor is, the more financially stable your care factor is, the better chance you have of winning football games. So the big boys, the ones that compete at the highest level, the ones that we talk about winning national championship trophies, their care factor is way up at the top. And I'll say this too, we've seen a lot of other teams now start to get in the game a little bit. Like shout out to Missouri, shout out to Tennessee, shout out to Ohio State this past offseason. The care factor continuing to ratchet it up a little bit, and the allocation of those funds is being put in the right place as well. Another absolute truth for you here. In the new college football playoff model, the 12-team field, quarterback play will be more important than it ever has. And that's not me telling you now that quarterback play previously was like a 7 out of 10 on the importance. I'm not saying that. But I am saying now, as we move to a 12-team format where you got to win 3 to 4 games to win the national championship, you can't hide average quarterback play. Like, the best way to describe this for me, it breaks my heart a little bit saying it this way because we're a college football show. Roll with me here. The NFL playoffs and the NFL period, teams that make a run for the Super Bowl typically have a dude at quarterback, right? Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow a couple years ago, Tom Brady for the better part of that, however many years when he was rolling with New England. Those quarterbacks are the separating factors when it comes time to win football games at the highest level when the rosters are more comparable. That's going to be the same deal in college football. Because if you're Georgia or you're Ohio State or you're Alabama or you're Oregon, there's going to be a time where you get into the college football playoff and you line up with a roster that is maybe on a similar playing field to yours. Like, it may not be the exact same caliber, but like they're going to have a lot of 5 stars, you're going to have a lot of 5 stars. It may not be round 1, it may not be round 2, but at some point in time, your quarterback will have to elevate your football team when the roster's on a similar playing field. That is going to be a reality here going forward. And so, yes, you got to have talent at other positions. You got to have a complete roster. You got to have depth. That's absolutely true. But I think to win at the highest level, to win national championships now, your quarterback has to string together 3 to 4 games to allow you to, again, hoist that hardware. So that, again, never been more important than it is right now. Having a quarterback's always been very important, but there's been times now where you can compensate and have other position groups step up and have your defense lead the way. All still very true, but the quarterback now, I believe, is more important than it ever has been before in college football. Here's my favorite one. And this is one that I think a lot of us aligned on. We're going to go through some of your absolute truths here in the future because I put this out on my Twitter page as well and asked y'all for your absolute truths when it comes to college football. College football fans love college football, not the NFL. We might like the NFL. We're cool with the NFL. Heck, if it's on Sunday, brother, I'm watching the Falcons. I'll watch Tampa Bay and the Panther. I don't care. I'll watch the NFL. But college football fans, we love college football. And I think this is kind of a funny thing to describe to someone who wears a suit every day to work because they're like, hey, it's the same sport. 11 on 11, dudes hitting each other, wearing helmets, like scoring touchdowns. That's all the same, right? No, it's not the same because college football, for us as college football fans, the reason why we love it so much, my opinion is because it makes us feel something. There's a certain degree of passion involved in college football. Like college football, to me at least, feels a lot more accessible than the NFL. Like there's a romance about college football. There's the pageantry, there's the bands, there's the venues that are unique, there's the mascots, there's the traditions. Like all that is just unique to college football. The NFL is great, but NFL rivalries compare their rivalry to college football. Like you hear about the Raiders and the Chiefs talking about how big a rivalry that is at the NFL level. They talk about that and say, yeah, it's a lot like a college rivalry. College rivalries, I think, embody exactly why we love college football. The passion, the pride, the bragging rights for 365 days a year, that means something to us. Going back to what I said about college football being more accessible than the NFL. I'm not talking about ticket prices, though that is maybe something else you could talk about at a different venue, I suppose, or a different format. We identify with college football because we grew up either watching that team on TV, going to those games, or more specifically in terms of access, like we maybe went to that school, or we know someone that goes to that school, or a family went to that school. I know a lot of people that went to different colleges and support those colleges because of that. I don't know a lot of people that played for the Oakland the Las Vegas Raiders, Oakland Raiders, shows you how dialed in we are to the NFL here. I don't know a lot of people that played for the Buffalo Bills. Shout out to the Buffalo Bills, though, for Nick Brake. It's just kind of the way that this whole thing is. So when I talk about college football in the context of us caring about it as college football fans, it's very unique, it's very specific, and honestly, it's a hard thing to communicate to someone who, went to law school and is trying to tell us why we should care about the NFL or why making college football more like the NFL is a good thing. That's not the way that we operate. That's not the way that our brain is wired. So college football fans, an absolute truth, we love college football because it's college football, not because it's like the NFL. Here's my last absolute truth, going back to the actual gameplay of the most wonderful sport on the face of the planet. This is pretty simple now, and this is one that's been an absolute truth now that has stood the test of time for a very long time, and that is that big people move small people. Big people move small people, and if you want to win national championships, you got to have a quarterback, but you also got to have some trench warfare on you, all right? The last 7 national champions, listen to this, combined together, have averaged 5.3 yards a carry. That means their big people are moving the other people against their will to allow you to have a pretty good amount of success on the ground. When it comes to defending the run, they have allowed 3 yards a carry, average, between those last 7 national champions. Now, here's the thing with big people moving small people, big offensive line, big defensive line. There's no scheme for size. You can try and compensate for it. You can try and scheme around it. But at the end of the day, man, if I can run the ball against you until, we feel like doing something else, we control the tempo of the game. We control the physicality of the game. We can wear you down. Like we are in the driver's seat if we can run the football and stop the run. Now, again, I think to win at the highest level, you have to consistently have a quarterback play that will be able to capitalize on those big people, being able to have the play action, be able to, push the ball downfield and maybe win some other kind of games. But this is what football is. I understand that spread offense is in vogue, and it I think is going to be continuing to evolve to maybe marry well with a smash mouth caliber of football. But there has yet to be a team that runs a wide open style of offense. I'm talking about, we go 5 wide, we're throwing the ball 50 times a game, 60 times a game. We're yet to see a team that is exclusively wide open win the national championship. Say, JD, well, LSU and Joe Burrow, yeah, they also still ran the ball, I believe, more than they even threw the football that year. They also had a first-round running back in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So this is an absolute truth. The big people move the small people. Football is still a physical game that is won and lost at the line of scrimmage. Got to have a quarterback. I think that's absolutely true going forward now, but you got to have the big people to move the small people, and that is an absolute truth in the most wonderful sport on the face of the planet that is college football. So to recap it here, care factor, got to have it. No longer is it, maybe we should get into NIL. Either have it used against you or use it in your advantage. One of those two. In the expanded college football playoff, quarterback play will be more important than it's ever been. Got to string together 3 to 4 games to win it all. You're going to have somebody that can differentiate for you when it's time to win football games. College football fans, we love college football. We like the NFL, but we love college football because it's unique to us. College football and the NFL, not the same sport. Not knocking the NFL, just trying to speak for the college football fans here. Last one, big people, as we mentioned, will always move small people. That's physics, that's science, that's common sense, and that's what the trend tells us over the course of really the entirety of the sport's existence. So we got a lot of good answers from y'all on my Twitter page. Let me know there, too, your absolute truths when it comes to this sport, because that tweet is still up, and we'd love to hear from y'all. We'll unpack those on a future show. All right, this is what a lot of y'all are here for, man, that are tuned into the live show. Record predictions. They're here. All right, tomorrow we'll be giving you our national championship pick, our conference title picks, as well as a number of other predictions across the board there, from the college football playoff field to how that whole thing's going to shake out. So make sure you're tuned in tomorrow. But right now, though, I want to go game by game through Nebraska's gauntlet they have in front of them in the 2024 season. Over-under win total in Vegas, man, is 7.5. Now, as we go game by game here, I want to preface it with this. It's July. It's July. Let's have some fun, man. The fact that we can see these games being played, the fact that we got UTEP on the horizon, we can like start to make plans for that. We can see Colorado week 2 on the horizon for Nebraska. Like, let's enjoy that. We're going to shoot our shot here, and we don't apologize for it, all right? So let's get after it. Again, over under 7.5 win total. And if you go, I mean, even if you go under, hit 7, it's like, golly, man. I mean, first time making a bowl since 2016. If you're Nebraska, you take that. However, though, you're expecting a little bit more than that. You'd like to hit the over there, and I think there's good reason for that. There is a lot less fingers crossed kind of vibe in Lincoln these days because you have 77% production back from last year's squad that was in every single football game just about that they played besides Michigan. And, here's the big and, you have a quarterback now that you believe is the future for you. You believe he's the difference maker. Like he is the special sauce that will make this whole thing go. And I believe that that's fair to have that hope, fair to have that sort of assumption around the way this football team is going to operate. I think it's important, too, to mention, I do not believe that the close losses from last year for Nebraska will persist. The reason why, you got Matt Rule running your football program. And if I know anything about Matt Rule, and I was able to play under him for like 15 minutes, he is all about the details. And details are how you win close football games or how you lose close football games. Quick story before we go game by game here. When I was at Baylor with Matt Rule, we did this, it's funny, we did this thing called the program. Not program, it was the program. And it was essentially a lot of team building. It was military exercises. And it was like former Navy SEALs that came through and put us through all of this to try and get us all dialed in to be disciplined on the same page. All that really hard, really good. You got in the pool at like 4 a.m., did a bunch of calisthenics. You get the gist of it. At the end of that program, the last thing we had to do was do a perfect jumping jack. All right, so what that entailed was we have to all be on the same count together, start together, finish together, 1, 2, 3, perfect jumping jack, perfectly synchronized. We didn't do it. Tried it, you had one shot at it, you missed it, that was it, you didn't get it. And so it was like, all right, that was it, you missed, that's the end of it though. Like let's break it down, let's go back to the facility and, get some sleep. On the bus ride back, Matt Rule says, see y'all back here at 2 p.m. We're going to do that perfect jumping jack. Like that's how much it matters to him. I'm just saying, I don't think that those details that hurt Nebraska a year ago will be an issue for them again in 2024. So let's go game by game here and give you our prediction for them in 2024. First game, you got UTEP. It's a dub. It should be a dub. If it's not a dub, we got major issues. Now, where it gets juicy, you got Colorado coming to town. Night game in Lincoln. Here's the thing with this game for me. If you are going to be who you say you are in 2024, going to be that team that makes a bowl game, going to be that team that, causes some trouble for other teams across the Big Ten, you have to win this football game. Last year, Nebraska turned it over 4 times in this one. 4 times. Can't do it. Cannot do it. I think they win that football game. I think they'll be more disciplined. I think they have more firepower on offense. I think they're going to be a much improved operation in 2024, and I think they'll be able to get Colorado with it being at Nebraska. So go ahead and dial that one in as a win. Northern Iowa, dub. Illinois, that's a dub. At Purdue, could be sneaky. It's a road game for your true freshman quarterback. I'm assuming it's Dylan Raiola. Should take care of business there. Now, here's a tricky one. You got Rutgers before your bye week, and then you're at Indiana. So I want to go back to Rutgers. It may not be Rutgers, but I think within these first 7 games, I'm accounting for some kind of freshman moment for Dylan Raiola. Now, what does that mean? Is it a multiple interception game? Is it a costly mistake game? I'm not down on Dylan Raiola by any stretch of the imagination, but to assume that he just rolls through the beginning of this schedule with no issues at all, no hiccups, to me, that's a bit of a more difficult sell for me to make. So for this Rutgers game, it might be Rutgers, it might be one of these other games. I'm going to go ahead and say that they drop that one. Going to the bye week, you're at Indiana. Indiana now, first-year head coach. We'll see what they end up being. I think that's going to be maybe a little bit of a tricky spot for Nebraska because it's a look ahead. You got Ohio State the next week. However, I do think you win that football game. Now, the game after that, you go to Ohio State. Now, let's be real, man. Ohio State, from a roster talent level, should beat Nebraska. They should. That's not shade to Nebraska. If anything, that's just common sense. Look at how Ohio State has recruited. Look at what they did through the portal. Nebraska is building to ultimately compete with Ohio State in the future and beat Ohio State in the future. That's the plan. I promise you. Matt Rule is not here to shake hands and go 9-3 and call it a good season because they lost to Ohio State by a couple of points. That's not how he gets down. However, even though I think you lose to Ohio State, the thing I'd watch in this game is what's the gap? What's the gap here? Like, how far off are we if we're Nebraska? How competitive are we? I'm not saying you take a moral victory. I'm just saying watch the line of scrimmage, watch how Raiola plays in what I expect to be a big-time atmosphere on the road. Tough place to play. He was committed to Ohio State at one point in time during his recruitment. How does Raiola handle that? First year starting quarterback, so we'll see what he ends up being long-term, but like this will be a really good litmus test for us when it comes to Nebraska. I think you beat UCLA, then you have a bye week, then you're at USC. I could see this one going either way, to be honest with you. Right now, with it being at USC, I'll lean towards that Lincoln Riley offense. Now, if USC doesn't have a defense improved, like this could be a real good time for Nebraska hanging out in LA for the weekend and going back to Lincoln with a dub. So I'll say that much. But I do think that they actually dropped that game at USC. Wisconsin, gosh, I love Luke Fickell, man. I do. I think they have a really good roster. They are top 20 in returning production. So I think you lose that game as well. Then you come back home. You're at Iowa. This is a game, if you're a Nebraska fan, you're like, man, like, dude, we should have had this game last year. Like, this should have been a win for us a season ago. It wasn't. However, the improvement at quarterback, I think the culture overall, I think the detail-oriented nature of them will be enough to win that football game. So I think that Nebraska hits the over on 7.5. I think they finish with a record of 8-4. You're going bowling, obviously, with a record of 8-4 for the first time since 2016. And here's the nice part about this for Nebraska. Like, here's the overwhelming sentiment when you close the book on what 2024 will be. We were never crazy. Like, maybe crazy in a good way for how much we love the Cornhuskers, but like, we were never crazy in telling ourselves the story of how close we were. Because you lose so many games by one score, year after year after year, you're like, okay, like, are we actually that close? The scoreboard says we are, but like, if we're going to keep losing close games, is that just who we are? This kind of a season where you win 8 football games, okay, we were never crazy. It just took the right quarterback. It just took the right head coach. It just took the right way of doing things. Now let's keep rolling. The exciting thing with that momentum, to me, is what they do on the recruiting trail. And the thing with Matt Rule now, he doesn't need the 5 stars. I promise you, they'll take the 5 stars. I think at some point in time, they'll end up, competing for some of those 5 stars. But if you just get Matt Rule some ammunition, some proof of concept, he takes the 3-star that fits his system perfectly. He develops him into an NFL draft pick. Jalen Petrie at Baylor, he didn't recruit him, but he was a lower profile recruit. He wasn't that 5-star cat out of high school. Matt Rule takes over the job at Baylor, develops Jalen Petrie. Jalen Petrie now making a lot of plays in the NFL for the Houston Texans. So a lot of momentum off of a season like this going forward, and Nebraska is cooking with gas. So let me know your feel on this. Let me know your prediction for Nebraska from a win-loss perspective in 2024. But we're calling our shot. We got the Huskers going 8-4 in the second year of the Matt Rule regime. Golly, you got to love it, man. You got to love it. Anytime you're talking about actual games being played and you're breaking down the schedule, like, that's just a good feeling, man. That's just like caffeine for the soul. Now, caffeine for the body is good too, but caffeine for the soul, will take it as well, and that comes in the form of predicting college football games. Now, if you love college football, this is a quick plug here. Our friends at College Football Focus sent us their preview magazine. They do great work, man. The thing that I love about this too, it's got everything that you want, right? It's got the conference by conference breakdowns. It's got predictions. It's got returning production numbers. It's got projected depth charts. The thing that I love, though, this is a college football product by college football people. Okay, college football people that have worked in the sport. Dave Shoemate, who gave us this digital copy, former personnel director in the SEC, he knows what he's talking about. All right, he knows what he's looking at when he breaks it all down. And he talks about the rosters and the schedule and all that. So go ahead and check them out at College Football Focus. They do a really good job over there, and we appreciate them taking care of us as college football sickos, getting dialed in for the 2024 season. So go check them out. They do great work. Now, one thing that's a part of that preview is some postseason accolades, preseason projections for postseason accolades, if you will. And I think now would be the best time for us to talk about this together. Who's winning the Heisman in 2024? Who's it going to be? I don't know. We're about to find out, though. We're going to do our very best to call our shot here. I think with the expanded college football playoff, we are going to have the most wide open race we've ever had. The reason why I say that, it used to be, not always, but more often than not, it was if your team is in contention for the college football playoff or a national championship, you are grouped into being a Heisman Trophy contender, right? Fair enough. It wasn't that way last year with Jayden Daniels, and thank the Lord for that because Jayden Daniels was the best player in college football last year. But I think with expanding the playoff, there's going to be a lot more players that are in contention for the college football playoff, on teams contending for the college football playoff, that is, that maybe before would have said, I don't know, they got 2 losses. I don't know, they lost that game early on in the year. Where now we're like, hey, they got 2 losses. They're going to be in the dance. Let's look at that team. Let's look at that team's quarterback. Let's look at that team overall as being a contender, which I think will ultimately just make for, again, a much more wide open race. So we got our finalists, we got our winner. Before we get to that, though, I want to talk about who just missed the cut for us when it comes to finalists. Caleb Downs. If I knew how much offense he was going to play at Ohio State, I'd feel a lot better about making him a finalist. I think he's a dark horse kind of guy for this award. However, best player in college football, typically a quarterback award. It is what it is, but Caleb Downs, you could see him sneaking into the finalist category. I don't know that I would have him there right now based on what we know. Doesn't mean he's not still one of the best players in college football. Luther Burden. Now, we got to interview Luther Burden at SEC Media Days, and I asked him straight up, like, hey, man, what are your goals for 2024 personally? He's like, I want to win the Blitnikoff. I want to win the Heisman. Mic drop. I'm like, okay. Like, Luther Burden could absolutely do that, but just what I said about Caleb Downs is the truth about Luther Burden as well. It's a quarterback award. Fair or not fair, it's a quarterback award, and I have a difficult time seeing Luther Burden end up winning this thing. Now, 2 more quarterbacks that I think are just snubs. Snubs. Cam Ward, I think he is going to play well enough to be in this discussion and potentially be a finalist. My issue with him, though, is when you look at his November slate, like he's got Duke, at Georgia Tech, Wake, and at Cuse. It's a November award, too. Like, I don't know where my Heisman moment is coming from if I'm Cam Ward. Now, it could be in the ACC title game. That's absolutely true. However, I think Cam Ward, by nature of those lack of stages, I think that hurts him a little bit when it comes to winning this award or being a finalist for this award. Now, Jackson Dart, I think also is going to be one of the best quarterbacks in college football. And if you have watched this show, man, we have been carrying the flag for Darty's season out there in Oxford. Like, I think Jackson Dart is going to have a tremendous year. I think Ole Miss, spoiler, I think they're in the college football playoff. Our full prediction's coming tomorrow for you. But Jackson Dart, the reason why I don't have him as a finalist is I wonder how much Ole Miss is going to lean on him throughout the course of 2024. Because we know this. To win the Heisman Trophy, you got to pretty much put together a uninterrupted run of really good games. And the way that Ole Miss operates, man, like they may have some games where they just decide to run the football. They knock on Jackson Dart. I promise you care more about winning football games than winning the Heisman. But like last year, Ole Miss ran the football 57% of the time. I don't know that that's going to benefit him when it comes to winning the Heisman. So one of the best players in college football, hands down. Will he be a Heisman finalist? TBD. So those are our snubs, but who's actually going to be a finalist when it comes time for this thing to be given out in New York City? We got 4 of them. The obvious one, this is a layup. Carson Beck is going to be a finalist for the Heisman Trophy. He is the betting favorite right now. The reason why I expect him to be in the room for that award being given out, they have a very deep wide receiver room. If they can stay healthy, that's obviously going to benefit him. He might have been a finalist last year had Brock Bowers stayed healthy and Ladd McConkey stayed healthy. He threw for almost 4,000 yards last year, and the folks at Georgia are like, yeah, man, we maybe should have cut him loose a little bit earlier. If they cut him loose from the jump, like I expect them to, he's going to have a massive 2024 season. I expect him to be in that 4K range yet again when it comes to yards on the course of the season. I love his November lineup too. Florida, at Ole Miss, Tennessee, all really good opportunities for him to have his Heisman Trophy moment. Because that's the thing, too, with this award. I told you, it's a November award. Having your best ball at the end of the season where folks have the Heisman at the top of their brain, I think that helps him. I think that benefits him, not even counting in the fact that I believe Georgia will be in the SEC title game as well. Another spoiler for you when it comes to our conference title picks. So, Carson Beck should be a Heisman finalist. I believe he will be a Heisman finalist. He's going to put up big numbers in a more wide-open Georgia offense. He's going to be a finalist. Another finalist from the Big Ten, Dillon Gabriel. I see the chat already popping off telling you that I'm going to pick Dillon Gabriel to win the whole darn thing. Stay tuned. We'll see what happens. He's going to put up massive numbers. Like, this offense, we've said it many times, is based on making good decisions and being in rhythm. Bo Nix set a completion percentage record last year at Oregon. All he did was get the ball to the right place and let his wide receivers work. That's not a knock on Bo Nix. That is a testament to Bo Nix being able to play within the structure of this offense. That is Dillon Gabriel, all right? He makes great decisions, played a lot of college football. That's going to benefit him. Getting up to speed in this offense is going to be massive. I love the November slate for him as well. You're at Michigan. You're at Wisconsin. I think the Big Ten title game will also be something that he has a chance to do. Keep an eye on Dillon Gabriel. I think that he's going to be someone that ends up being in the room for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. Quinn Ewers from Texas will be a Heisman Trophy finalist. Year 3 in the system, chance to put up massive numbers. He plays Florida in November, and then the finale at A&M for Texas. That might be the stage for him to plant the flag and say, here I am, Heisman Trophy me. That might be the deal for him. I love the wide receiver room. I understand they lost Xavier Worthy. They lost Adonai Mitchell. But you bring in Isaiah Bond. You got Silas Bolden. You got Matthew Golden. You got Amari Niblack. You got a lot of dudes that can real deal go for you on the perimeter there. They're going to be in good shape. Quinn Ewers playing in a quarterback-friendly offense where they're going to ask a lot of him, I believe, this year. Going to be a very, very good year for Texas. Going to be a very, very good year for Quinn Ewers. I believe he will be a Heisman Trophy finalist. Last one here. We've been pounding this drum for a while, man. I think Jalen Milroe is set to have a huge, huge year in Tuscaloosa. I'll just tell you this. Him and DeBoer, it's going to work. We've said it to anybody that will listen. We said it on Feinbaum's show. We've said it on this show a number of times. The way they're going to dial it up for him. The question last year was, well, is he consistent enough as a passer? I would argue, have we seen him be in a position where the offense around him is consistent enough for him to be a good passer? Now, he's not a bad thrower of the football. The stats indicate that. But I think what Kalen DeBoer is going to do, pre-snap, getting guys open, dialing up layups for him, you're going to see his completion percentage continue to climb. You're going to see his passing numbers continue to climb. And then also the way they take shots deep, that's something Jalen Milroe does as well as anybody else in the country. And then you pair that with the fact that the way this offense plays wide open, the way that Kalen DeBoer is going to call it, that's going to create a lot of space for Jalen Milroe to be the special athlete that he is and put up big numbers running the football. In November, he's at LSU. He's at Oklahoma. They finish with Auburn. Looks like stages to me. So Jalen Milroe will be a Heisman Trophy finalist. So who ends up winning the Heisman Trophy? This was tough. Again, I told you before the show, if you're watching live right now, we didn't decide until probably like 25 or 20 minutes before the show when Nick Brake is slacking me saying, hey, who you got as your Heisman Trophy winner? I'm like, my bad, dog. I think when you look at history, that is our best teacher when it comes to picking this year's Heisman Trophy winner. A first-year quarterback in a new system, that's the key word there, a new system for the quarterback, has not won the Heisman Trophy since Johnny Manziel. So that would eliminate Jalen Milroe, new system with DeBoer. That would eliminate Dillon Gabriel, even though I think both guys will crush it. They'll be in new systems. And then I worry a little bit about the way that Georgia's going to operate offensively. Not in the sense that I don't think they're going to score a lot of points, but there's this Georgia stigma. They're all, and y'all know what I'm talking about. It was a thing with Stetson Bennett. It's been a thing with Brock Bowers. The Georgia stigma is they play such good complementary football that you don't know who to give the credit to. It's the defense. It's the run game. It's the quarterback. Yeah, but like they got a lot of ballers around him. And like whether we agree with that or not, I think that's going to be a factor in the Heisman Trophy race. So I think that Quinn Ewers is going to win your Heisman Trophy. I think that if they succeed, and I expect them to succeed, it will be because of him. It'll be because of how they throw the football downfield. I think Steve Sarkisian will go to even another level of this offense with him being his third year in the system. I love the weapons. I love the schedule. I think Quinn Ewers wins the Heisman Trophy, and I think that ultimately he is the guy that hoists that hardware because of all the reasons I just mentioned. So let me know who your Heisman pick is, but for us, we got Quinn Ewers of Texas bringing home that little bronze statue. And the Heisman's such a tough thing to square too, man. It is. It's so tricky. It's so tricky because, again, You don't know how much to factor in September. October matters, but like your Heisman moments in November, you got to be in a position to make the college football playoff, which again I think makes that even more difficult to put to to predict. But nonetheless, it's here, y'all. It's here, and we love everything about it. So let me know again in the comment section in the live chat who you have winning the Heisman. All right, it's prediction season. Let's get after it here. We did Nebraska. We've done Oklahoma. We did Colorado. Let's talk about Tennessee here. So Tennessee, I think, is fascinating. Their over-under win total is 8.5. The Nico era has begun in Knoxville. It's Nico time, baby. Something we talk about a lot on this show. Okay, I see the live chat saying sip of caffeine. No sip of caffeine, but I will ask you, if you're watching right now live, go ahead, find that subscribe button. It helps us do more of what you want to see. Okay, again, college football less than 24 days away. When you're watching this, more than likely 24, less than 24, dial in with us, all right? Subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on podcast, subscribe to the podcast feed. We need everybody. We need everybody dialed in for us here, all right, to make this whole thing go. So we appreciate you for that. All right. So back to what I was saying. The over-under win total for Tennessee is 8.5 wins. Tennessee fans are like, hey, we're thinking way more than that in 2024. I respect it. What's in-house? Nico Iamaleava. I would say arguably the most anticipated quarterback since Tim Tebow when he first got the keys to Florida's offense. Like, I think that's the kind of hype and pressure on a guy like Nico. The good news, if you're a Tennessee fan, I think he's built for it. Like, there was a clip going around social media yesterday where Nico says, yeah, I like playing away games better. I like the juice. I'm like, this guy's out of his mind. This guy's a little bit psychotic in the best way possible. So Nico Iamaleava being wired that way, I'm all about it. It's a good vibe for Tennessee fans. The other part of this, and Jesse Simonton, national columnist for us here at On3, has been pounding this drum for a minute now. The 2022 defense at Tennessee left something to be desired with that elite offense. That's not what you have here in 2024. Some new pieces in the secondary, absolutely, but you got James Pierce, a top 15 pick, if not a top 10 pick, coming off the edge for you out there in Knoxville. A lot more depth up front than you've had in a long time. This is a defense now that's going to give you more than a chance. Like, you can lean on this defense. You don't have to score every single possession if you're Tennessee. You'd like it, but you don't need it. The quantity of playmakers, too. We say it a lot on this show, man. I keep referring back to things we've said previously on the show, but it feels like the appropriate time before we break down every single game for Tennessee. They got a lot more in-house than they did previously. Like, Squirrel White last year was your guy. Besides that, Brew McCoy was hurt. Dante Thornton was hurt. It was also his first year in the system. Chris Brazzell transferred from Tulane to Tennessee. We got to see him out there during spring practice, y'all. 2 words: catch radius. Okay, he can climb the ladder and go get it for you. So you pair him with Squirrel White, with the young freshman phenom Mike Matthews, Brew McCoy back healthy. Love the tight end room. Like, Nico Iamaleava now is going to have a chance to distribute the football to several dudes that can make plays for you. This is Josh Heupel's Tennessee. Every single thing on this roster, the way they do things, the culture, the quarterback, the system, everything now in Knoxville, Josh Heupel can sign his name next to and say, yep, that's us. There's no more, the previous staff, that doesn't exist anymore. This is Josh Heupel's Tennessee. So what do they do in 2024 from a wins-loss perspective? We're going to call our shot right now and predict it. First game of the year, Chattanooga, Dub City. If it's not, we got problems. You have NC State in Charlotte. Neutral site game. Neutral site's probably in air quotes there, but with it being in Charlotte, you imagine NC State will travel well. This is the game now where you really got to build some confidence. Like, this is going to be an early test for this team. It's going to be the best test, obviously, to this point in the year for Nico. Like, we got to kind of figure it out here, get in rhythm. If we know anything about NC State, they play good defense. They are the same every year. It doesn't matter who they lost. They play good defense. I think you do win that game, but I think it's a bit of a battle. Now, here's the one where it's like, all right, who are we? You go to Oklahoma. I believe College Game Day will be there. That's just my gut. This has to be the game where, if you're Nico, you grow up in front of everybody's eyes. Like, this is the game where you say, all right, he has arrived. This is the reason why we were so excited about him for the last 2 years, really, since he committed. I think that he ends up having a coming out party. I think it's back and forth. I think Oklahoma will absolutely put up a tremendous fight, but I do think that Tennessee wins that football game, and then Tennessee heads into the bye undefeated. Coming out of the bye, you got to go to Arkansas. Tricky place to play. Arkansas is going to be scrappy, fighting for their lives. I think you win that game. And then you play Florida. If you're a Tennessee fan, you're like, thank the Lord this one's in Neyland and not in the Swamp. Might just be the way things fall this year for you, where you get a couple of breaks. Florida will be the same thing as Arkansas in the sense that they're going to be scrappy as heck. Everyone's talking about Billy Napier and the hot seat and this and that. I'm just telling you now, that roster a lot better than folks would like to believe. A lot better than folks want to give credit for. However, I do think you end up winning that football game. At that point, momentum is rolling. Now, then you play Alabama. This was the game in 2022 where you threw the goalpost in the river. Vibes were high. I don't know that you win this football game. I'm going to pick them to lose this one. But the storylines going into it are going to be fascinating. Like, if Tennessee is rolling at that level, is Alabama able to match them coming into that game? Is Alabama operating at the same clip? You would expect them to be, but like, again, new system for Jalen Milroe, a lot of young bucks on defense. We reserve the right to absolutely change our prediction on this game. However, right now, feels like I'm going to lean towards they have a bit of a hiccup, if you will. So I think they lose to Bama heading into the bye. They beat Kentucky. Kentucky's going to be physical. They'll be tough. Really good test now on a number of levels for Tennessee in this game, both physically and psychologically. Because psychologically, you either have a massive win after Bama or you're coming off of a loss and you got to kind of recollect yourself. Either way you slice it, you got to dial back in from a very emotional game against Alabama. Third Saturday in October. You're probably drained emotionally, if not even more so physically. Kentucky's going to be tough. They're going to be disciplined. You know what they are with Mark Stoops running that operation. I think you win that football game and pass a massive test. Mississippi State, not to knock Jeff Lebby, they win that football game. You go to Georgia, I think you lose this one. Georgia just has the personnel where they can win those one-on-ones that Tennessee really tries to create. We'll see what they are when we get here, but I do think you end up losing that game. You beat UTEP, you beat Vanderbilt. Hey, don't look now. Tennessee's 10-2. First year with Nico Iamaleava running the show, 10-2. I think if you offer that to any Tennessee fan, they take that tomorrow. I really do. 10-2 means you're probably competing for a college football playoff spot. We'll see where we put you tomorrow. It also means that Nico is for real. Like, all the hype, all the pressure, all the anticipation of what he was going to be the number one recruit in 2023 lives up to it. His first year as the guy. That says a lot about him physically. Y'all, I would argue that says more about him mentally. To be able to handle that pressure, to be mature enough to be able to hear all the good things said about you and still play your best football, still play good enough football to make you 10-2, we should not overlook that. You got question marks? Sure. We'll see what the offensive line is when it comes to depth. We'll see what the secondary is. I just think they're going to score a lot of points. I think they're going to be deep enough at the key positions on the defensive side of the ball to hold up there into the bargain. And I think this offense will look a lot like it did in 2022. This should reaffirm for a lot of Tennessee fans, if you had any concern, Josh Heupel's your guy. Because 2022 was a ride. 2023 was a little bit of a caffeine crash, if you will, because there were such high hopes. 2024 should reaffirm, like, hey, like, don't let that guy walk out of Knoxville. Whatever you do, I mean, you give him whatever he wants to keep him as the head coach for you out there in Knox Vegas. So Tennessee, we got them at 10-2. Let me know what you have them on my social media platforms at JD Piquel, Twitter and Instagram alike. So we got one more prediction for you here. Before we get to that, though, it's a beautiful time of year. Fall camp around the country is opening up. You got fall practice reports about to start rolling out here. Some of them are already rolling out. The Roundtable, the On3 Roundtable YouTube channel. Caden Smith is just bodying those right now, so lock into that YouTube channel as well, because you're going to get a lot of practice intel from guys that are boots on the ground for us, whether it be Gators Online, our Florida site, whether it be War Chant, our Florida State site, I mean, Bama Online or Alabama site. Like, if you want to stay dialed into all things fall camp, subscribe here, obviously, but make sure you subscribe to the On3 Roundtable YouTube channel as well. So, fall camp is here, and with fall camp, baby, comes propaganda. And some folks hear the word propaganda and they're like, oh, that's a bad word. You shouldn't say propaganda. No, actually, quite the opposite. We have been starving. We've been starving since January 10th for real college football nuggets, notes, intel. This is that time of the year where we get to actually sink our teeth into something palpable and drink the Kool-Aid. And I said this at the top of the live show, man. If you can't get fired up for fall camp, man, I don't know what to do for you. Because fall camp is another word for hope. During fall camp, everyone's undefeated. For the most part, everyone's healthy. Everyone's got a chance to go win the national championship. You got a chance to make the college football playoff, win your conference. Like, everyone's dreams and hopes are as alive as they've ever been during fall camp. So drink the Kool-Aid because you can't take it with you into September, all right? One of the beautiful things we're going to hear throughout fall camp, one of the beautiful propaganda points we're going to get is how good your quarterback looks. Hey, he's spinning it, man. That ball jumps out of his hand. He's got command of the offense. I mean, he is dialed into the nth degree. Totally different player from last year. And I love that so much. Part of the reason why I love that, a lot of these notes are coming from us seeing routes on air. I hope he's dialed in on routes on air. We got no DBs. There's no safety over the top. I don't have to worry about that linebacker knocking my guy's head off on the slant route. He better be dialed in. He better look as good as he's going to look with no defense on him. So your quarterback looking good. Fall camp propaganda, inhale it. Let it digest into your system and let it give you some life moving into fall camp. Another one we're going to hear, and I love this one. Hey, team looks different physically. Off the bus, man, they just look different. I mean, they're probably put on a good 10 to 15 pounds of muscle. Hey, they've been working in the weight room. It's like, yeah, that's all they've been doing since January, brother. They've been pushing sleds and squatting heavy and maxing out. They don't have to go through the wear and tear of a season just yet. They are building up the body to be able to go through a long season. I hope they look good right now. I hope they look healthy and ready to roll right now. They look like they put on some muscle because that season's about to pull it off of you. I love this. I absolutely love this. All they've been doing is eating, lifting, running since January. I hope they look different off the bus. The fall camp propaganda, they look different physically. Just, I mean, chef's kiss. Just, I mean, beautiful. Here's another fun one. Hey, there's new energy on the field out there, man. These guys are flying around. They're operating at a different tempo. You can feel the buzz in the air. And this is something that I like to ask our guys about whenever we get the chance to hear some intel from fall camp, which we will have on the show here for the better part of the next few weeks moving forward. Here's the thing. As I just said, these guys have been running 110s in the heat of summer. They've been waking up at 6 a.m. for lifts that would just make you cry looking at what they have written on the board for them to do. The fact that you get to put on a helmet and go through individual drills, go through 7-on-7, put the pads on again at some point here pretty soon. That's enough to get you fired up. Your body's fresh, or it should be fresh for the most part, getting ready for fall camp. Like, yes, you should have new energy on the field. You should be fired up. So I love that. I love the new energy on the field. Buy into that. You're so happy to actually practice football and not have a heavy squat day when fall camp rolls around. There should be rejoicing across the entire team. Last one here. This is kind of a fun one. We like to track who's the first guy out for practice a lot. I'll be real here. I would pay a lot more attention to who's the last guy off the field after practice, because the reality of it is, when it comes to the first guy on the field getting out to practice, you don't really control that. A lot of it has to do with how long your position coach wants to keep you for pre-practice meetings. Some guys will hold you all the way till there's like 5 minutes before the first period starts. Other guys will cut you loose to go get taped, get your mind right, look over the call sheet for the day, and get out there for practice early. So I would pay attention to who's deciding to stay on the field after practice. You hear a lot of, oh man, this guy was out for practice early, catching punts. Yeah, because his coach cut him loose 45 minutes before practice. God bless that coach, man. He wants to get out to practice too and touch the grass a little bit and move around and be outside. Probably did some work beforehand to make sure that install was all ready, to make sure that meeting ran smoothly for that guy to get out to practice early. So I'm not knocking the guy who gets out to practice early. I'm just telling you, pay attention to the intel of the guy that gets off the field last. Because at that point, man, like when you finish practice, the last thing you want to do is stay after and catch passes, do routes on air, do core, whatever you do after practice. That is the choice. That's the guy who's really grinding and locking in and about that life. So fall camp is here. Propaganda is here. Don't turn it away. Embrace it. Embrace it because, again, fall camp is code for hope in college football, and we love everything about it. All right. One more segment here for us. Again, tomorrow, conference title predictions, national title predictions, college football playoff field for you. Like, it's going to be a good time tomorrow. So make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you're locked in. 11 a.m. Eastern. It's on and popping. We're going to crown our national champion, preseason at least, on this show. One more record prediction for you, though. We got the Miami Hurricanes. And Miami, their over-under win total in Vegas is at 9.5. Vegas is telling you, hey, we're expecting something this year. Mario Cristobal, the way they've trended over the course of the last couple of seasons, 5-7, 7-5. Do they pop in year 3 of the Cristobal regime? I think the good folks in Coral Gables are like, this is the year to show us something. We've waited patiently. We've been told to let the process run its course and let Cristobal get his guys in there. And then you just kind of throw in the grenade of, oh, by the way, we got Cam Ward, one of the best quarterbacks in college football now, running the show for us. And if you've watched this show, man, you know that we love Cam Ward. This was the team that you were told about when Mario Cristobal first got the job at Miami. Like, this is how the roster was supposed to look, that you were told how it would look eventually. Line of scrimmage, it's there. Francis Mauanoa, I think that defensive backs watch him on tape, what they do on the screens, and the reverses when he gets out in space, he is a highlight. He's a highlight on the offensive line. Let that sink in. Skill players, it's there. Sam Brown from Houston, got speed to burn. Xavier Restrepo, you know what you get with him, and a proven commodity. JoJo Trader they're excited about. Jacoby George they're excited about, obviously, what he did last year at Miami. And you got the quarterback. That's the difference maker for you. You got the quarterback to set this whole thing off and make it work. So this is your window. All right? This is the moment here, if you're Miami, to go get what you want to go get. It's like 8 Mile, man. This is the moment. If you had one shot, one opportunity, would you seize it or just let it slip? Like, knees weak, arms heavy. That's what you're dealing with right now if you're Miami. So let's go game by game here and call our shot. Again, it's July. We're having a good time with this. If you read too much into this, God bless you. But we're calling our shot in July. We're going to go game by game here. If you are trying to predict Miami's schedule, would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section as well. So first game of the year, going to the Swamp, baby. Going to the Swamp. And we've said it for a long time, man. Florida, they are a lot better than most people would lead you to believe. I think Miami is going to be one of the best teams in college football this year. Spoiler, I do. However, this game being played in the Swamp, Cam Ward's first start in game action, it's tricky. Very, very tricky. If this game was played at a neutral site, I think I'd pick Miami. However, it's played in the Swamp. This is a team in Florida that has heard a lot about what they won't accomplish, how they're going to fall flat on their face, their coach is going to get fired, their schedule's so tough. I think that Miami actually drops the first game in the Swamp. And then you have a layup line for 3 games after that. You got Florida A&M, dub, Ball State, dub, at USF. Yes, you heard me right, at USF. USF, man, God bless their athletic director. They have been just like finessing these big-time opponents to come and play them at their place. Alabama last year, Miami this year. It is what it is. That should be a dub. Now, Virginia Tech, you get them at your place. This game makes me so nervous, so nervous, because Virginia Tech is number 1 in returning production. They got a Clydesdale at quarterback in Kyron Drones, who I believe Cam Ward also trains with, and it's on a Friday. I don't know. This is a scientific part about college football. If it's played on a Friday, weird things happen. Spooky things happen on Friday. Even with that being said, I think Miami wins a close one against Virginia Tech to keep the good times rolling after that 3-game win streak. They make it 4 against Virginia Tech. Then you go to Cal. It's not fun to travel. You got to go out to Berkeley. You're going coast to coast quite literally for a conference game. That's modern college football for you. I do think you win that football game. Then you're at Louisville. Now, this game is the game before Florida State. This just screams, just shouts from the top of the mountains, trap game. Okay? We're going to do a segment, I think, in the future, too, because of this game of the top trap games in college football. This is one of them. Louisville doing what, Brom does. They're going to go and hit the portal hard. They got Tyler Shuck, who's played 97 years of college football out there for them. He's a good player now. If you don't bring your A game, you'll end up losing like Notre Dame did last year when they went to the Ville. Tough place to play. It'll be rocking. However, I think this is where we see new Miami show itself. Culture is strong. Talent level is better. More focused. I think this is the game where you say, okay, that's different. That's a different team out there. You beat Louisville in a tragic look-ahead spot. Then you play Florida State. This is going to be a game that is major for bragging rights in the state. This is going to be major for the approval rating for Mario Cristobal, obviously. I'll be real. I just don't know if Florida State can score with Miami. Not saying they can't. I think that defense is going to be great at Florida State, but I just don't know if Cam Ward is rolling how I think he's going to be rolling. Florida State can keep pace. So I think that Miami wins that game and set themselves up very nicely to finish out the season here. You got Duke, should be a dub. At Georgia Tech, you're kind of walking that tightrope now. You're making sure that you finish through the line here. That should be a dub. You finish with Wake Forest and at Syracuse. Wake Forest is a win. At Syracuse is not going to be easy money. All right, Fran Brown, Kyle McCord, they got a roster now that can give you some problems. However, I do think you win that football game. Tough fought, not easy money, but you win that football game. So look at this now. You win your last 11 games after losing the first. So Miami finishes with a record of 11-1. If you're keeping score at home now, Miami is undefeated in the ACC. You set yourself up for a ACC title game berth, and you feel pretty good about where you stand as it relates to the college football playoff. I think most Miami fans would take that. I think they would. Again, this is not old Miami. It's not. The ups and downs of last year, everyone making jokes about Georgia Tech and taking a knee and all this, I think all that external noise is going to benefit them. I think it's going to bring them closer together as opposed to tear them apart. And I think they are on a mission this year. They got the roster to do it. They got the quarterback to do it. I think in year 3, they got the culture to do it. We've said it a few times. They remind me a lot of what Texas was this time last year. Everyone sees the logo and says, we've heard so much about them every single year. Have you? Or have you heard about other Texas teams, other Miami teams? Because Mario Cristobal's Miami is very different than previous year's Miami, especially in 2024. I'm buying the trend. I'm buying Cam Ward. I'm buying the Canes to go 11-1 in the 2024 campaign out there in Coral Gables. So there you have it, man. That's Miami. It's Nebraska. It's Tennessee. Calling our shot for those teams heading into 2024. Let me know a couple of things. One, we are not done with record predictions. Just because this is prediction week does not mean the record predictions stop with the end of this week, all right? So lock in right here. Make sure you're subscribed. We just appreciate y'all making this show what it is, man. Like I said at the top of this thing, this is a program. Yes, on this side, what we do and how we operate, we try and operate in a way where we are, bringing our best to the table, clearly, because we're doing the greatest job in the face of the planet. We get to talk college football for a living, but it's a program with y'all as well. So make sure you're subscribed to be a part of the program. Make sure you're locked in on the podcast feed. It's about to be 24 days, man. 24 freaking days from toe, meat, and leather in Dublin, Ireland. Back on the air tomorrow. Again, national title picks, conference picks, college football playoff field, all that. So lock in with us. Cannot wait for tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. For Nick Brake running the show, for myself, JD Piquel, we're going to keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all